Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunnavadi Pasyadharine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mokham Karoti Vasanam Vangam Langhayadegiri Yakripadamam Vande Shri Gurum Dinataranam Narayanam Askrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudire. So without Bhagavatam, really impossible. Oh, we're reading from the 6th canto, 3rd chapter, verse number. Which verse? 7. Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Atastvameka Bhutanam.
Atastvameko Bhutanam.
Sheshvaranam Adishvara.
Sheshvaranam Adishvara.
Shastadanda Dadarinam.
Shastadanda
Shubha Shubha Vivechana.
Shubha Shubha Vivechana.
Atastvameka Bhutanam.
Atastvameko Bhutanam.
Sheshvaranam Adishvara.
Sheshvaranam Adishvara.
Shastadanda Dadarinam.
Shastadanda
Shubha Shubha Vivechana.
Shubha Shubha Vivechana.
Atastvameko Bhutanam.
Atastvameko Bhutanam.
Sheshvaranam Adishvara.
Sheshvaranam Adishvara.
Shastadandadaro Vrinam.
Shastadandadaro Nrinam.
Shubha Shubha Vivechana.
Shubha Shubha Vivechana. Atastvameko Bhutanam.
Atastvameko Bhutanam.
Sheshvaranam Adishvara.
Sheshvaranam Adishvara.
Shastadandadaro Nrinam.
Shastadandadaro Vrinam.
Shubha Shubha Vivechana.
Shubha Shubha Vivechana. Atastvameko Bhutanam.
Atastvameko Bhutanam.
Sheshvaranam Adishvara.
Sheshvaranam Adishvara.
Shastadandadaro Nrinam.
Shastadandadaro Nrinam.
Shubha Shubha Vivechana.
Shubha Shubha Vivechana.
Atastvameko Bhutanam.
Atastvameko Bhutanam.
Sheshvaranam Adishvara.
Sheshvaranam Adishvara. Sadandadaro Nrinam
Shubha Vivechana.
Shubha Shubha Vivechana Atasvameko Bhutanam Sheshwaranam Adishvara Shastranandadaro Nrinam Shubha Shubha Vivechana Ataha as such from you Eka one Bhutanam of all living beings Sheshwaranam
including all the demigods,
Adishvara
Supreme Master,
Shastra
the Supreme Ruler,
Dandadara
the Supreme Administrator of Punishment,
the Supreme Administrator of Punishment,
Vrinam of human society, Shubha Shubha Vivechana, who discriminates between what is auspicious and inauspicious. The Supreme Judge must be one, not many. It was our understanding that you are that Supreme Judge and that you had jurisdiction even over the demigods. Our impression was that you are the master of all living entities, the supreme authority who discriminates between the pious and impious activities of all human beings. No purport here. Take the next one. Tasya te vihito dando na loke vartate duna chaturbir adbhutai Siddhar agyate vipralambita. But now we see that the punishment ordained under your authority is no longer effective, since your order has been transgressed by 4 wonderful, perfect persons. Therefore, the Yamadutas had been under the impression that Yamaraj was the only person in charge of administering justice. They were fully confident that no one could counteract his judgments. But now, to their surprise, this order had been violated by the 4 wonderful persons from Sitaloka. I will now continue. It's a very short purport. Niyamanam tavadeshat asmabhiyatana Yamachayam pitakinam chitva pashan prasahyate. We were bringing the most sinful Ajamil to the hellish planets, following the order, when those beautiful persons from Siddhaloka forcibly cut the knots of the ropes with which we were arresting him. Purport. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur remarks that the Yamadutas wanted to bring the Vishnudutas before Yamaraj. If Yamaraj could then have punished the Vishnudutas, the Yamadutas would have been satisfied. Tam stiviritum itchamo yadino manyase kshamam nadayane hite mabar ityaya yojutam. As soon as the sinful Ajamil uttered the name Narayana, these 4 beautiful men immediately arrived and reassured him, saying, do not fear, we wish to know about them from your lordship. If you think we are able to understand them, kindly describe who they are. Purport. The other carriers of Yamaraj, being very much aggrieved because of their defeat by the 4 Vishnudutas, wanted to bring them before Yamaraj, and if possible punish them. Otherwise they desired to commit suicide. Before pursuing either course, however, they wanted to know about the Vishnu Dutas from Yamaraj, who is also omniscient. So here, we understand that not only Ajamil was chanting the name Narayan at the time of his death, but by this occurrence, also the Yamadutas is now chanting the name of Narayan. Because they are telling them that when they wanted to catch Ajamil and pull him out of his body at the time of his death, they were obstructed by the servants of Vishnu, and because he had chanted this name Narayan, his four very beautiful looking spiritual personalities came, and they thought they were from Siddhaloka, because in Siddhaloka there's other living beings who are born there. They have automatically all 8 mystic perfections. And we know that Vishnu Dura is ultimately from the spiritual realm, Vishnu, in this world. So therefore, the name Narayan, they tell him that he chanted, as soon as he uttered the name Narayan, everything somehow or other changed, and they had all these problems. And they were very desperate and devastated because they thought nobody can defy them. They are serving the most powerful master in the universe, the Lord of Death, and they enjoyed this very much, this feeling of security, that they don't have to be confused about what is their duty. Now this defeat by the Vishnu Dutas is very heavy for the ego and for their self-esteem, because they know everyone is afraid of them, and they are actually in charge of assisting and implementing law and order. A similar feeling can occur when a policeman catches a dangerous gangster or murderer after a great endeavor, risking his life. And then he brings him to the court, and then the court just lets him go. I once met a devotee in Slovenia. I was there a little bit in charge of, say, counseling devotees, because they were all young devotees and had some crisis. So I was staying there 1 year, and everyone could come to me with their problems. And it's not that I feel I'm a very wise person, but simply listening to the problems sometimes also gives some relief. And I learned something too. So once there was one devotee in the congregation, he was a policeman, and he was in a big crisis. He had depressive states, and he started to hear voices. And some told him, there are ghosts after you. And they sold him some talisman, some amulets. And he thought, now it's over, but it became worse. And he started to become very, very afraid. He could hardly sleep anymore. So, since I don't give much importance to ghosts, we as Vaishnavas, usually when we chant the holy name of Krishna, protected from evil elements. Just like Ajamil now, although he was not a pure devotee, still his chanting with faith in that name, or just chanting because he remembered his son. So it was not totally unoffensive, but it was also not any intentional offense was there. So immediately all the fearful situation were immediately dispelled. So therefore it is said in Bhagavatam, where beginning Yapi Vedi Swayambhaya, that the holy name of Krishna is so powerful that even a glimpse of offenseless chanting will already dispel all problems of holy name is not dependent on, ultimately, on any external circumstances, but the holy name is directly identical with God. The name of God is identical with God. So, Nama Chintamani Krishna Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha. That the holy name of God is perfect, and it's not different. There's no difference between the name of God and God Himself. No difference at all. So when we chant the name of God, because God is always pure, we also become purified. Become very purified. And even fear itself, Yad Vivedi Swayam Bhayam, means that everyone is afraid. So fear is a very distressful condition. But even fear itself will immediately have to run away when the holy name of Krishna appears. So Thakur Haridas and Namacharya explain that even if the sun has not risen, but only the first rays of the sun are visible in the sky, and the sky gets tinged in reddish tone, all the darkness disappears. So even though we may not be pure devotees, but if we try to chant with faith and not to commit offense, all the effects will be there, the purifying effect of the holy name. Otherwise, why we have to chant? If we are already pure and so on, why we say we have to chant Hare Krishna and become purified? If the holy name doesn't have purifying effect due to our conditioned state, because we are not yet pure devotees. And some may say, why do you chant at all? And I heard such things sometimes. And do something else, do some magic or worship the ghosts or whatever when you have problems. No. Of course, sometimes if we have mental, emotional disturbance, it may be due to some bodily dysfunction also. Maybe you have eaten too much in the evening, or you have slept too much eating in the night, or you have some problems, genetic problems, chemical problems in your body. That may also be the case. It doesn't have to be just ghosts all the time. And ghosts sometimes take advantage when you already have a lot of disturbance, when you keep yourself unclean, you don't chant with faith, you are cultivating bad habits like taking drugs, and of course ghosts may take advantage. But they are not the reason for the problem. The problem is that we are usually not leading a very pure lifestyle, and we don't take shelter with faith of the holy name of Krishna. That is the whole problem. So this devotee, when he told me in the congregation, he's a policeman and he's hearing voices, I became a little alarmed, because after all a policeman is wearing a gun, and if he gets into a severe crisis, who knows what will happen. He came there every day. So I felt very concerned for him. So first I asked him, I don't believe that just by buying a talisman or something as a devotee you can protect yourself from evil elements. And in fact it didn't change, it became worse for him. So these things, mostly we think that some outside source is responsible for our problem. But it's not. We have to find the reason in our own heart and mind. So I asked him what happened in the past. Was there some trauma or something? So he told me, yes, one of his friends, who was a policeman, while they were on duty at night, he committed suicide in front of his eyes. He shot himself, and he couldn't prevent it. And ever since then, he has these depressions, and he cannot sleep. And then I asked, well, how about your schedule? And he told me he has to do night shifts also. And then, of course, it's very bad for the biorhythm. If you're a very sensitive person, not everyone can do it. And I thought, okay, here we have some hint. And then also, he told me that in this country, Slovenia, at that time, that was like many years ago, the policemen were very badly paid also. They were underpaid. And they had to catch all these criminals, and it was a big endeavor. And then they catch these criminals, because it was very corrupt. then they take them to court and then they let them go again. They pay them a lot of money and they let them go again. And therefore he was in a lot of distress. Not only that, but they were very badly treated by their superiors also, with very little respect, kicked all the time. And so he was under a lot of pressure. So I simply asked him, you first of all understand that these ghosts cannot harm you when you chant the holy name of Krishna. And they are not the real cause of problems. They may come or may go, there may be ghosts everywhere, but usually we have no business with ghosts. As long as you don't meditate too much on them, you're not too afraid of them, they cannot touch you. Because the whole name of Krishna is so powerful that it dispels all the impure and evil elements very easily. So that is the best remedy. But I would also advise you, I told him, that you simply, because you're hearing voices, that is usually when you are overworked, tired, sometimes it happens when you have a weak mind. So you better don't do any more night shifts. And you should talk to a psychiatrist who can help you, or some person you know in your family, or a friend, about this trauma that happened to you, that you release your emotions on, because it's a very heavy trauma that you saw your best friend die in front of your eyes, and you feel very helpless. When we feel very helpless, we suffer much. Of course, the devotee understands he's always helpless, so that helplessness is not so bad for him when he just accepts that helplessness. But that takes some time, it's not so easy. Normally, the greatest pain for us when we are in a situation and feel totally helpless. We see something happening to somebody else, we cannot help that person. It's very sad. Or a person leaves us who is very dear, or dies who is very dear, and we cannot do anything about it. These are the miseries of life in the material world, and they will always be there. Some type of misery like that, because we cannot control it. We are not the controller. We cannot even control the growth of our hair. Somebody may be very proud, I can at least control my circumstances to a great extent. I'm very secure. But he cannot even control the urge to visit the toilet at least a few times a day. And he may think, okay, I can stop that for maybe 1 day or 2, but latest on the 3rd day you have to release, otherwise we'll die. So how much are we the controller? We are controlled by the laws of nature. Some people think we can just subjugate nature and dominate nature and exploit nature, but we cannot. Nature doesn't depend on us. Nature is always stronger, and we see it again and again when there's a great disaster, catastrophe. What a human being can do, nothing. Big forest fires in Spain, California, nobody can do anything, hardly anything. So many firemen get sucked in while doing their duty. And that is very sad. But the ultimate fact is we all have to die. We are getting older every day. Nobody can stop it. And every day we are approaching death one more step. With every rising and setting of the sun, one day is lost. And we're getting closer to death. So we are not responsible for everything that happens. And we cannot take all the burden on our own shoulder. But we should just try to do what we can. It is part of our duty that we have to do. What is outside of our duty, though, we cannot change. We cannot do anything about it. So here the Yamadutas were a little bit in illusion, because obviously they ran into a situation where they could not change things. By the way, that policeman, he became much better in the next week. He stopped hearing voices when he stopped doing night shifts. And he was associating more with devotees. Then he also had pressure from his wife, who didn't understand Krishna consciousness very much. So we visited his family. She was very happy, and she was afraid that she has to somehow lose her self-confidence in Krishna consciousness, but we reassured her that we can also learn something from her. For example, she was very expert in child care, so we gave her a lot of points. I asked Mamaji to ask her about child care, so she tried to accept it also a little bit and not just push it aside. So she lost her fears of the devotee, and she became a very nice devotee. So he felt better and better. And then I heard much later, I never asked him to give up his job. You know, one should think 100 times before giving up one's duty and profession. But he himself decided that maybe it's not actually his type of job, and he started to participate in a business of devotees who were producing a lot of prasadam, which they're supplying to the kindergartens and schools with nice vegetarian food, and became very happy devotee ever after, even without the help of some tantric or magician or the superstitious talisman, amulets, whatever. These things are usually sold by people who manipulate the fears of people in order to make a business. They even increase the fee, oh yeah, there's a ghost after you. And then people become afraid, and then you sell them relief. Alright. And they think, now I solved my problem, but they didn't actually solve the root of the problem. Therefore one should not associate with such people. The gypsies also sell you so many things and do some magic and tricks, and then they manipulate your fears and your desires. That is how people in nowadays world, the materialistic world, they gain control over other people by manipulating these two things, fears and desires. Because these are the two functions of the mind. And we're always hankering after something, and we're lamenting about something, we're fearing something. Shochiti and kamshiti. And on the level of the mind, we are like, I gave that example before, we are like sitting in a train, let's say, that goes from Vanløse to Copenhagen and back to Vanløse all the time. And the same way the human mind, because the material element, it goes back and forth, hankering after something, lamenting and fearing for something, always back and forth, back and forth. One day I like something, next day maybe I shouldn't do it, maybe I should do it, maybe I shouldn't do it. So you get caught up between these two factors, as long as you are identifying with the body and the mind. Because the mind is the center of the senses. So that means you are still on the sensual level. So here the Yamaduras became so desperate because they were overcome with fear and sadness and lamentation. Because they came for the first time into a situation, they felt helpless, they felt defeated, cannot change anything about it. So they try as a last resort, please you change something, you are very powerful. You punish these Vishnudutas. Yamaraj, of course, was very happy to hear the holy name of Narayana and that they met a devotee, and he will instruct them that there is no sense in punishing him because he's a devotee, he gave his life to the service of God. He didn't, but at the last stage he actually